Good morning, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? I am fine. It's funny, I went to the bank to make sure I had money for my rent and my credit card, which I do. And I asked for a printout of my Social Security. I didn't get it. It's a form like this, which is a 1099 Social Security, and it gives you in orange the amounts. That's what I got for the year. Now, I haven't printed all out. They can't do a filter. In other words, just Social Security payment, just filter that, which is what they should be able to do, but they can't, which is amazing. Um, and so he prints out 12 months of that. So I get my total, and then I get this in the mail. So I have what I was looking for, because when I do my taxes, I get a W-2 and I say, this is how much money I made. Then I add Social Security to it. But because I didn't make X amount of dollars, I don't have to pay tax on that. And anyway, so as I'm asking him to do it, I go to the mailbox and there it is. And I have my pita. Where's my pita? Sorry about that. I had to get breakfast. It's 11:20. So anyway, it was ironic that here, just what I was looking for, there it came, and I got a W-2, which I really didn't need, because if you just look at your last pay stub for the year, that's your W-2. So I knew what I was going to put in. So because I didn't make the amount, then Social Security is just good. And really, it's my rent. It's my rent and my food and the utilities is Social Security. So that's one thing I don't have to worry about. And when I get a chance, I buy more gold and silver, but I don't have to sell my gold to pay rent. And that's the key. And that's really what I wanted to talk about, among other things. There's a very good Egon a second. Just a second. All right. Sorry about that. So when we when we look at that's Social Security. First of all, it shouldn't be public. It should be private. If I'm making money and I have to pay 7.65 into nothing, so I can pay Joe Blow, it should go into my account, and then I should invest it the way I see fit, and then the employer has to match it. And as we did in class, I'd have like 500 grand now if I would have just put my money in my account and got 5% interest on it. But no, they want to do this Ponzi scheme where I pay for somebody else pays for me. It's the stupidest thing in the world. It can't work because eventually there's nobody to pay for somebody else. Like right now, the baby boomers are bankrupting it because there's more people retired than there are people paying into it. And with the Bitcoin, they're really not paying Social Security, right? So if your business is Bitcoin, you don't pay Social Security. Oh, I'm day trading. I made money that. Theoretically, they should pay social that 7.65%. All right, that was part of my morning. I got to do my income tax, but I'll do that. I got till April. I'll probably break even. I was taxed at too high a rate. They're assuming I was going to make what I was making the whole year, but since I only worked November, December last year, and then Jan, Feb this year, the tax that came out was assuming 52 weeks at a higher tax, and therefore I only worked that, so my tax rate's lower. So, and then I don't have to pay tax on Social Security, so I should get a little bit of money back, which is fine. I don't count on it. Morning, Prof. Hope you're well. So right now, gold's 28.87, up from 28.50, up from 28.30. Again, this is why I tell you not to panic with gold. You go, oh my God, it's coming down, and it gets a little bit tense. It's sort of like watching a football game. We bet on the Packers, and we got the Packers in a lock, getting 7 points, and all of a sudden they're down 20-0, and you start panicking. Oh shit, it's 20-0. Don't worry, Packers will come back to win, and they come back, and now the game's tied. And now you were worried when it was down 20-0, but now you're like, oh, okay, now we're back. Or if you bet the Chiefs, like Bobby had the Chiefs in the Super Bowl against the Niners, and they're down 10 points. And he doubles up on Kansas City. And then here comes KC, comes back, and you go, oh, okay, yeah, that's what I thought would happen. And that's it with gold. Now it's up 28.89. And here's the strange thing. Look what happens. It's not really up at midnight, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, but then all of a sudden about 3:57, about 4 o'clock, it jumps to 28.70, and then at 6 o'clock when it normally goes down, it goes up to 28.75. Where's the 10 o'clock drop? It went from 28.80 to 28.77, and then it jumped up. So this is why, as I told you, I would normally buy at 10:30 after the 10 o'clock drop. But every once in a while, I'd say one in maybe 20 days, I would say 1 in 20 days, you would get this where it goes up at 10 o'clock, not down, which is very confusing. So that's what you don't, you don't expect 10 o'clock to go up. You expect it. So that's a big day we're going to have. We'll be back to 2,900 probably today or tonight. I am noticing the Chinese are coming out selling a little bit more than buying, which I don't understand. And then silver 31.75. So it went down to 30.50. And then here it comes, 31.75. And so you've got your baselines, and we're all like, why isn't silver getting to 35? Why isn't it going to 40 already? You've got to ignore the ratio of gold silver. Well, it should be 10 to 1. Well, it isn't because of the derivatives, because of COMEX. It's fucked up because they want to keep the price low for the military and stuff like that. So gold, they can't. Gold, you're not putting gold in weapons. But you do put silver in it because silver is the perfect metal that goes into a Tomahawk missile. And so that's why, a little bit why, but really, once people who are getting out of the dollar who are going into gold, as gold gets too high, it goes into silver. Now, Alligator thought, well, it'll go up a little bit more, then it'll start stabling off. If we get rid of COMEX, there won't be a stable off because it's too undervalued. And what he's missing is, see, everybody likes to look back. Well, this is what happened in 2008. This is what happened in 2000. And since 1971, this happened. And since 1982, this happened. And since what happened in 2010, 2011. And you can't compare it. That's why I talk about variables. You cannot compare the variables of today with the variables because you are taking delivery off of COMEX, which never happened before. You have BRICS who are buying all the gold and silver, which has never happened before. All these countries joining BRICS, everybody getting out of the dollar, which has never happened before. So you have basically 150, 170 trillion dollars that was used in the FX scheme, the whole Ponzi scheme where, if I'm Switzerland, I got to buy dollars to buy British pounds. Why do I need US dollars? So all those dollars were printed to be the middleman. And we made a lot of money ripping off everybody. Why do I need to buy dollars to buy pounds? Stupidest thing I've ever heard. So now that's all blowing up. No more petrodollars, so you don't need dollars to buy oil. And now all of a sudden, all this dollars is coming back, and that's creating a mess. I'm glad I didn't get blocked for showing those videos of the CIA guy. There's a few videos, like if I show a WWF one, right? If I show a wrestling video, I tend to get not blocked, but it'll block me for the day and say, oh, you can't use that. That video was, regulated or whatever. So that's what you have going on. That stopped. So now, how do I compare 2008 gold and the derivatives? I didn't have BRICS. I had petrodollar. So now BRICS is eating up all the gold, and they want to take delivery. Now, according to Mark McGuire or Alligator, he gave a pretty good idea that on COMEX, there's always a buyer and a seller. It just used to be that the buyer just settled for the IOU, the paper. Now the buyer wants physical gold. He's demanding the physical gold on the derivative. And so you have to pay him the physical gold. He bought the contract. So what they're doing is they're selling. So when you see a derivative and the price goes like down, so it's at 28.89 right now. So if it goes down to 28.85, they're selling contracts. Well, the other hand's China buying them. But so you sold, I bought. I want physical, not paper for buying the derivative. There is no gold to give it to you. Then we blow up the COMEX because I'm taking delivery. It wasn't set up to take delivery. It was set up that everything would be IOUs. That's what's changed since 2008 is BRICS taking delivery on the COMEX, the tier 1 and the Basel 3 on gold that you have to deliver it. And you're supposed to deliver it T+1 or 1 day. They're taking 8, 10, 12 weeks. So this is what we have. And that's why you can't look at, as I say in football, all of a sudden I got Caleb. I can't look at the Bears with Fields. I got to look at them with Caleb, but I can't even do that because now I got a new coach. So I can't even use any of Caleb's stats. Not that they were any good. Daniel's I can use. And so it shows you the variables change, and the key ones are coach and quarterback. And then you've got in college all these assistants moving around and around. It's the whole thing's insanity. Anyway, so as in football, as in stocks, as in anything you analyze, you have to look at all the variables. I was doing a budget at this Tenneco for the 4 months I was there. And I go to the guy, says, well, can you break it out from the VP to the manager? I says, well, you can't because none of the variables are the same. In other words, you weren't even here. It's talking to my manager. He came in like July. I go, you weren't even here. How could I budget for you? There was other departments that were all broken out, right? And legal and manufacturing and engineering I had, sales I had, IT. I don't know if it was the same, but I said to my boss, what you're asking for, I didn't say this thing I've ever heard. I can't, the variables have changed, and I know that from football, and now I know it from bricks. The variables have changed. I can't possibly give you what they spent last year as meaningful. He didn't even understand that. That's why I question his ability to manage. He's weak. He just does what they tell him. You give it to me, and I push it back at you saying, this is stupid. I can't look at what the guy did last year. Who knows? Who knows what his role is? And it's all changed, so I can't really look at it. Whoever's asking for this assignment is an idiot and you need to tell him he's an idiot because that's a stupid assignment. But that's the problem working for somebody versus working. Like when I look at football, I can tell you it's worthless, so I don't even waste my time doing it. Hey, Pat. Well, my pleasure. Happy to teach. What confuses me, and maybe you guys can help me, is I look at like Alligator did a video, and there's like 20,000 subscribers and like 10,000 views, and I'm getting like 20 views. Now, granted, I do it live and he doesn't, but at the end of the day, he's getting all these views on his video, and I'm opening it up to live where you guys can ask me questions, but I don't get anywhere near those views. That's why I added advertising, hoping that that'll open up me getting more things. This guy, Amit, who sent me an email, oh, I can help you. And then he wants to charge me, and I'm like, I don't know who you are. Sounds familiar, Prophet? I don't know who you are, and I'll tell you what, I'll pay you after you get me results. So if you get me 1,000 views, then I'll be happy to pay you. But I'm not going to pay you, and then I still get my 20, 30 views. You haven't done anything. And that's what you got to do is you don't want to, if you don't know the person, you don't want to pay up front. You can pay me up front for my picks. You don't have any worries. I'm going to give you my picks, and I give you my history and everything else. But some of this stuff you just can't do. So, Prophet, you okay? I don't want to be off guard and talk about too much of what you did, but I think it's 100% bullshit. Why they would stick it with you? And my only question to you is: have you actually spoken to the girl? Like me actually speaking to Daria. That's where I would go with it. Because I can't. You won't answer that question, so I don't know. That will lead a lot of light on it. If you have, what is she thinking? And if you haven't, then just go away. I mean, you don't want to do it. Okay, I'll read that. I was at the bank this morning and then getting my mail, and here's class. I was watching Alligator, which was a really good. He changed. I can tell these guys are listening to me. Mark McGuire said that you can't print gold, which he's never said. Alligator said, what did Alligator say? He talked about gold. It's $1 going down, but gold, not gold going up, but gold could go up as an asset. it can do that. But what he's saying is gold's never changed, and I agree. An ounce of gold's an ounce of gold. That's never changed. But what the gold will buy as the value goes up has changed, and it's certainly you can't sell that gold doesn't go up in value. And I see it at $28.89 right now, up $29. Did the dollar go down $29 today? No, you can't do that. And then he made a few other comments. Bitcoin, he did say was it's not money. There's a few other things he said that I say that I was shocked, going, "Oh my God, look at Alligator's like finally getting it." Profit, yeah, I have the morning this morning concerning their lawyer. Well, I'll tell this for class, so not just for profit. If you get somebody and they ask you for money, this is me talking about me, and they start misspelling words like 200 TOO or 100 without HUND, and they're supposed to be an attorney or manager or something, it's a scam. Just run away, because there's no way attorneys misspell simple words or phrases. It just doesn't happen. Not like that. Not like what I've seen before. And normally it's these girls. Now I'm talking about me. Normally it's girls who hit you up on Twitter or on Instagram, and you think there's somebody, but they're really not. And then oh, you want to meet? Sure. Oh, okay. Send me this, send me that. And I'm like, well, okay, let's have a phone call. Let's get on Skype so I can see you like you're seeing me right now. Now you know who I am, right? Luke's the only one that I've actually met in real at the airport in Barcelona. But then so if I can see the girl who I think it is, and we have a talk, well, now I know, like with Daria and Jenna and Carmen, I know who they are. I've talked to them. Melissa, I've met in person. So I'm fine with Alyssa and I'm fine with Daria. Even though we haven't met, we've been on enough. And then Jenna and Carmen, I met several times. So I know it's them, but it's really getting to know who they are in real when you're having dinner with them and lunch and going to the pool and shopping with them and in the cab. Then you really get to know them. And that's, I think, the key before you make any decisions. Jenna kept asking me for a ring. And I'm like, I'm ready, let's wait till the war ends, because I would move to Ukraine if there wasn't a war going on. You won't move here because you can get a visa, but you need a visa, you say. And I said, well, go get one. And you wouldn't get it. So there was nothing there, but that's what so you at least have the communication. And that's the key thing. And if you don't have that, if you're not sure who you're talking to, it's a scam. Why can Daria get on WhatsApp or Jenna and send me a video and send me their picture, and say, hey, here's my kids and here's my family and all this stuff. Why would they, they can do that. So why can't a girl you meet on Instagram or Twitter saying she's this pretty girl and let me see you, let me talk to you, and they can't? And you're like, well, what are you talking about? My girlfriend in Russia can talk to me. Why can't you? So that's when you be careful with it. And I always say, I'm not going to send you any money until we meet. And then you get to know them better. And then usually you help them out a little bit, but not until we meet. And I had met Jenna and I had met Carmen and Daria. I'm on WhatsApp with her, but we're waiting on the war. So it's really been a frustrating and unusual situation. But that's what you're looking for. So beware of the girl who won't call you or Skype you or show you or send you a video saying, here's who I am. And when you get that, That's when you know it's a scam because, oh, well, my manager won't let me. Well, what do you work for Hitler? And what are you talking about? Profit. The lawyer is actually from Portugal, and as you can tell, English is definitely not his first language. Why would he have a lawyer from Portugal? But does his name sound Portuguese? Even if it isn't. So why would the guy who's American, I assume, if she's in California, have a Portugal lawyer? And why is he sticking you with with the cost that should be coming out of he's getting money out of the trust, I assume. Why would you get it? Why wouldn't the gal get it? It turns out the gold bars are not covered under her dad's estate. Oh, so he's using that technicality. That's why why aren't they in his estate? Um, I don't. I would still say I don't. Yeah, what's in the estate then? I mean, I don't know, but I guess the point to you, you have risk and return. Let's say you have money to pay for the shipping. You're risking that to get gold bars, to get a reward. Who are you paying? Are you paying UPS and FedEx? Then it might actually be real because what's the scam there? If you're paying somebody else, like if you're paying the attorney, for example, you pay me and I'll arrange the shipping, then I wouldn't do it. You don't know him. So that's kind of the risk reward you're taking. They're tempting you with gold, but you got to pay the shipping, which is extremely strange. Can't they ship it to the girl? I don't know. That's where I'm at. I don't know enough, and that's why I say, have you spoken to him on the phone or on Skype? Which, by the way, they're getting rid of Skype. I heard they want you to use Teams because then you got to get Microsoft, and right now you don't need Microsoft to Skype. So again, Gates fucking everybody over. But that's where I would be. I don't know. I mean, if it was Jenna asking me this, well, she did ask me about gold once, and it was a scam. But let's say Daria asked it, I probably would do it, depending on how much. Or Jenna, if she said, "Oh, we're getting all this gold coming in, and I just need you to help me with the shipping," I probably would help because I've met her and I know it's probably real. Her dad traveled to Europe extensively for his business. Yes, as long as I can pay FedEx for the shipping, then that would be fine. Well, I think that's your next step is finding out who. Now, what does your girl say about this? You're going to get all this. Is she talked about? I mean, I don't know. If we believe the dad passed and then he gave you that little comment, then it seems valid. It's as much as you know them. I'll leave it at that. If you know them, like me, you see me every day. Do you trust me? And then if I told you, oh, I'm gonna send you some gold, but you got to pay the shipping, you'd probably trust me because you see me. I'm telling you, and you've got my contact, you've got my Teaserking, and you would think, okay, yeah, that's fine. But if it's somebody you don't see and don't communicate with, then that would be a red flag. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if you're paying FedEx, what's the scam? I mean, then they've got to deliver and then you'll get it. And as long as it's real gold and not fake, but what would be the point of that? What would be the point of sending you fake gold? There's no point in it. And if it's coming from the father, his safe or his vault or wherever he had the money, like I said, I would take one bar. I'd put a magnet to it first. If it doesn't stick, I would take it to your local coin shop or jeweler, a big jewelry store. Say, I got this, I won it in a poker game. I just want to make sure it's real. And then they can go, oh, yeah. And then they'll test it for you and they'll put it on the machine and it'll register gold or not. So that would end it. But, again, do you have the money? If you lose the money, is it a big deal or not? That would be one consideration. And then it's the risk reward. Well, I will get all this gold, so it's worth the risk if you think it's a risk. Anyway, gold's jumping 28.92 and we're nearing noon, and it's just we haven't had the 10 o'clock drop, so we probably won't today. This is probably the US buying it, so they probably dumped it down to 28.80 or 28.30. So they saved $110. Right? It was $29.50, let's say. Now it went down to $28.30. They saved $150 an ounce. And so now they're buying it at this $28 level because the US has to buy to cover all their derivatives that stand for delivery. They've got to buy the gold. That's why they're buying the gold. No other reason. But as they keep doing these stupid derivatives, people are going to take the other side and want physical. And the more they do it, the more money they're going to lose because the gold's gone. I did a test yesterday. Gold is roughly 200,000 tons, as we know, maybe 205. Silver was like 14,000 tons, something like that, 1,400. I was surprised how much silver was out there. I thought silver was 500 tons or 500,000 tons, but I think it's more like 1,400 tons. Yeah, 200 tons. Silver's 1,400 tons. But I don't believe that. I thought it was more like 5. And then of that, how much is available? Probably not a lot anyway. So there's tons that's been taken out of the ground, and there's tons available that you can buy, are two different animals. And in gold, we know it's 200,000 tons. Of the 200,000 tons, there's zero available. Just what people, if nobody returns to my coin shop, I can't buy anything because he doesn't have. I think he can order for me, but I need, 10, 20 grand to order. I'd have to order 5 ounces. He's not going to, oh, yeah, I want a quarter ounce. Yeah, let me order that. So he's not going to do that. There's a minimum there. So he says he can still do that, but he doesn't. So I'm not quite sure he can, but he doesn't do it. He basically, people come in and they sell him the gold, and then I come in and buy it. So we're both happy. But he doesn't know what he's got, and I do, and that's why I keep buying. How can you not buy something worth 10 grand they're selling for 28 or 2,900? How can you not buy it? And silver, $30 an ounce. Well, now it's $31.74. It would cost me $33.74 to buy an ounce of silver. How can you not just back up the truck and, empty the vault, empty your savings, sell your clothes, and give me the silver because it's going up. The difference with silver is there is no stand for delivery on the silver contract. So they're still fucking around with trading amongst each other, and people want the physical and they can't deliver it. They're 28,000 tons short. So it allows them to then, they go right to the mines. So China's right at a mine, and so is India. They're just Newmont Mining. I want 2,000 tons of your silver. That's what they're doing. That's where they're buying it from, not from COMEX, because COMEX isn't set up to sell. What happened was her dad stopped making the payments on the storage for the bars after he got sick. The 4K is largely for storage and shipping. Oh, okay. Well, it's how well do you know the girl? How well do you know the family? Do you think they're honest people? And if you think they're honest and you've been with the girl and you want to be with her, she would have less reason to scam you if you're paying UPS or FedEx because then she won't get the gold. So if it's real, she would want you to get the gold because it's hers too. And how you're splitting that up, that's between you and the girl. It was so she could get the gold to be, with you. And so therefore, that's where it comes down to is it's in her best interest, if it's real, that you get it and then find a way to give it to her. So again, you'll have to meet her and, drive to her or fly to her or meet somewhere in the middle, or she comes to you, something like that. But it's in her best interest because it's gold to be real, right? So this will be interesting. I think his will is definitely real. Did you take it to an attorney? I mean, maybe take it to an attorney and explain. Do you think this is real? Or do you think this is, a Madoff? And then, yeah, this is it. So again, what does your girlfriend say? And how does she say it? And I think that'll be the key. And that's why I say, how long do you know her? And how long have you been with her? So you trust her. Obviously, if it's real, you trust her and she trusts you. Otherwise, because you're the one getting the gold. And that would be the question. Why is the daughter not taking it? She probably doesn't have the $4,000 to get it. So that's what you have to figure out. But I agree. I think the will is real. And then it's just a matter of if you're paying a shipping company to get it and you have the money, then it's worth the risk to do it. Okay. And if you believe he actually passed, then they're telling you the truth, then yeah, maybe it's worth the risk to get all that gold. And you're paying UPS. Well, there's no scam in paying UPS. So we'll see. Hope it works out. She claims they have had this lawyer for over 50 years. Okay. Well, if you're talking to her, then do you trust her? It all comes down to you trust her. And then if you're paying for it, I would ask her, how are we splitting this up? Because you don't want to pay that kind of money and not get any of the gold. She gets it for being with you. What do you get out of it? Is it a real marriage, or is it like Carmen? Carmen from Romania comes and she lives with me for a few months. Says, I want to marry you and I can get a green card. And I was like, well, what's in it for me? I mean, you want to marry me for a green card, not for me. Do you love me, or do you just use me to get the green card? I said, I'm not going to prison so you can get a green card. In other words, we can't have a fake marriage. So either you want to marry me or you don't, but you're not showing me you want to marry me. But it's like out of the blue. Oh, because we went to an attorney. I took her to an attorney here and he said, well, you need a green card to get a job here, and you either get a company that will sponsor you or you have a husband. And then I looked at her like, don't look at me. I'm not marrying you. She was not, I don't know. I didn't get the lovey that I got even from Jenna. So I was like, no. So we'll see. Anyway, the death certificate should be available by now. Well, it should have been when he died, sure. So when you talk to her, how does she sound? And again, are they just getting you to pay the money to get the bars here? Then you give them to her and she says, see you later, Charlie. And, it's one thing to pay for the shipping and then you keep half the gold bars. But if she gets them all, you pay the shipping and to give to her, what's the point of that? So I would try to clarify that you get half or you get 10 or whatever you're supposed to get. I would clarify that. because that's really the key to it. Anyway, so we see Debo Samuel got traded from San Francisco to Washington. I'm not sure it's a good move for Washington. I'm not sure how good Debo Samuel wasn't he injured, but then Washington's fine offensively with Daniels. They need defensive help, so it looks good. They got a receiver, but it's like the Lions. They have a good offense. They got no defense. You don't win without a defense. They can't beat Philadelphia just because they got Debo Samuel. Kansas City couldn't move on them. No, her dad specifically wanted me to take delivery of the bars. Yes, but how many do you keep? So in other words, Prophet, you pay the shipping and then they come to you and you get however many bars. And then the question is, what do you do with them? Do you give them to her? Do you keep half and give her half? What exactly happens next? So you get delivery, but not do you get ownership? And if you get ownership, then okay, then it's worth the risk. If you don't get ownership and you got to give them all to her and then she takes off on you, these are just thoughts, right? So this is just how the scams work. If, on the other hand, you pay and you, I guess, keep most of the bars and then you give some to her, but you make money on your investment of the shipping, well, then it's fine. I got a bar's worth, well, we saw $100,000, but these are bigger bars, so these are 400-ounce bars, they're worth 400,000. So it's worth 4,000 to get that, if we believe it's real. We have to be married first before the bars can even ship. I thought you had to be engaged. I think read that again. I thought what I saw was that she was engaged to be married. She could get them. I didn't know that she actually had to be married. So do you love her enough to marry her, or are you marrying her for the gold bars? Because you better be in love with her, because if you're marrying her for the gold bars, that's a problem. Money wears out. And, really, do you know the real her? Does she know the real you? Carmen wanted to marry me, like I said, for a green card. Dario wants to marry me, but I got to get her out of Russia. We got to get the war to end. So that's really what you want. You want to see the real person. So that's why I ask you if you met her and how long do you know her? I've known Daria for probably 6-7 years. Same with Jenna. I probably know her longer. So, it's getting to know her. Yeah, it's a problem for her. Known her 6 months. So because you live in different countries and cities, have you spent like time together, not on a vacation? And of that time, how does she treat you the way you want to be treated? Would you want to marry her? I mean, but the incentive of the gold makes a lot of people marry for money. So if you do get half, and then what happens if you divorce her? How long do you have to stay married to her? Or her to you? She could take the gold bars and leave you for some other guy. And I know it's difficult, these different country relationships, although you're got much better than I have. I met Jenna a lot. She's Ukrainian, and I met Carmen, Romanian. But we would travel. Actually, Carmen came here, and we traveled in the U.S. Jenna never did, but we met 5 or 6 times. So I knew Jenna very well. So that wouldn't have been an issue. But I prefer Daria. But I know Daria very well. So we'll see. We can do an online marriage certificate thing according to the lawyer. Do you guys want that? At least go marry her in Vegas or somewhere. But I see you can do the online so you can get the gold and then you could be together. Yeah. Well, you know what's best. You got to know the other person. If you really ever know the other person, who knows? I don't really know Daria yet. The only way you can really know them is to spend time with them. We would do the real ceremony afterwards. So you're doing the ceremony online to get the gold to afford to do the others and then do a real honeymoon, which you could easily afford. Yeah, I mean, it sounds good if you know the girl and she, um, and you're happy with her. That's the key. I mean, do you trust? You got to trust each other. I mean, that's first. So there's the attraction, and then there's the trust and the personality. If everything is good, then it'll work out. Um, that's the only way you should marry anybody. It's got to have the personality. The looks are important at first, but it's the personality. Will she talk to you? Will she roll her eyes at you? Will she, oh, you're watching football or whatever, that's where you just want the other person to make you happy. That's what you're looking for. Yeah, the online thing is for legal reasons. Yeah, no, I get it. All right. So what do we have here? We have all right, so we see gold. Gold's getting back to 2,900 on its way back to 2,950. Now you understand why I say it's the sale of the century. Because we know it's bullshit when it went down, so you're really buying it at a cheaper price. We were willing to pay $29.40 for it, so it's at $28.40. We save $100. Buy them even more. Because there's never a case that there's no demand for it. So if we understand our Austrian economics, we know everything works on demand. If there's demand on this card and there's a lot of demand, the price goes up. The only reason this price goes down if there's no demand, but we can see PSA 10 Montanas give you a lot of demand. I want to show you this card. All right, my Brady card. I want to give you an example. Okay, so here we see the Tom Brady Bowman Chrome Rookie, which is what I have here. So this card, and I see it right here for $77.50, and this is sold, so we know that's what it's sold for. Bowman Chrome Rookie, card 236. But when we go into the auction, what are we going to notice? Here's the card, but what's missing here? Why does it do that? Well, I'm trying to show you. Let's try to show you like this. So if I show you this under the 236, what do I got? I got refractor, 236 refractor. This says 236. There's no refractor on it. My card is worth a lot more because it's a refractor, and I haven't seen any refractors. So 77.50 for this card, while being good, it's not a refractor, which has got to be worth, let's say, 5 times, $35,000 to $50,000, because mine's a refractor, which is much more limited and much more sought after. So it's just little things like that that you got to note. I have another Brady card that it's his one in his it's I think it's a Vanguard or something. It's a rookies in his Michigan uniform, and if you look at the back, I believe it says out of 768, but it's kind of small. And I think I gave one to a guy at work by mistake. I was just trying to give him the regular card, but I think I had two of the 768s. Means they only printed 768 of them. But I think I accidentally gave him one. I didn't realize it. Then I looked at mine and I go, oh shit, I think I gave him. Oh, it's probably 10 to 20 grand. We will see. So you got to be careful and check everything. And then the errors, there's errors cards and stuff. So anyway, that's 77.50 without the refractor. With it has to be at least twice as much. That's at least 15,000. But I would say if I put a buy it now out there, I would put it at $50,000. And people would look at it and I'd go, this is the refractor. And I would put it in the description. So I got to get this. But the thing with this card is there's no centering issues to really worry about. Because at this point, they've got the centering worked out. The corners are sharp. The picture's sharp. There's really no issue with the card. So I don't know how it can't be a 10. I don't even know why I would need to get it graded. But, just in case it's scratched, it might lose some value. So anyway, I bought it for $100. I'm a killer at a card show because I know what I'm looking for. I wanted Brady rookie cards. This is after he won a couple of Super Bowls. I said, well, he's already won 2 or something. And it's a Bowman Chrome, which is better than Bowman and better than Topps. And it was a rookie and it was a refractor. So it was like, check all the boxes. Perfect condition, rookie, refractor. And maybe I paid $125. I didn't pay much. Not for where it's worth. And again, the keys PSA 10 because it's very limited. So it's the same thing with Montana. I paid $100 for this. I probably paid $100, maybe $150 for this one. And that's what the beauty of investments is. This one I probably paid $20, 25, and only because it's numbered out of 99. So I'm showing you how to invest in sports cards. Your investment is demand, which is popular player, Brady, Barry Sanders, Montana. It's rookie cards that are more valuable. It's a 99 count in Barry's case. Those are what you're looking for. So don't waste, like at first we were trying to complete a hockey set, which was worth $10. Just because I'm anal about completing the set. Oh, I need 5 cards. Let's go to a show, buy the 5 cards, and that would have been it. And I really wanted to buy gold because I had just got my master's in 95 and I got married in 91. So it was kind of like, let's buy gold. That would have been, I bought a little, but not like this. I bought because I wanted the class ring, but the class ring was $800 and I doubt it was gold. And this was $500. And I said, and this is an ounce of gold. Okay, fine. I'll take this. Again, being smart, that I just got my master's in gold, basically. So the key is you want things that are highly demanded and limited. The Montana 10 is very limited. The Brady 10 would be very limited. Plus, it's a refractor, which is even more limited. The Berry's 99, very limited. So again, it's a combination, extremely limited with high demand, which walks us into, is this extremely limited and high demand? Absolutely not. Not limited with the 150, 160 trillion printed. And again, as I said, the reason that's so high is because you needed dollars to sell your Swiss francs to buy British pounds. You needed dollars. So they had to print a lot of dollars to do all that. Well, that's what BRICS is getting away from. They're going to say, no, you just China, Brazil, just buy it. But what they're doing is, or what they have to do is come out with gold-backed currency, because then nobody wants Russian rubles, and nobody wants China yuan, and nobody wants Indian. Indians heavily inflated, as is most of these countries are poorer countries with heavily inflated dollars. That's why they want to get out of the U.S. Because the FX rate's done by the U.S. and it screws them. But to trade, they want a common trade currency, which is gold. And nobody can fuck with it. Putin can't fuck you if you have gold and he has gold and you're trading gold. He can't fuck you. She can't fuck you. India can't fuck you. Nobody can fuck you because I'm trading gold for gold. But once I get into, euros, and you got pesos, or you got rubles, who's getting, how do we figure out the FX rate? You don't even know what the FX rate is, because it's really a made up thing that the US does. So again, the gold makes demand because it's gold and you can't print it. It is what it is. You can verify it, but trading gold for gold, there's no risk. It's the same as saying this is, I'm telling you this is gem mint. Look, see? And then you go, well, I'm not sure. Is it really authentic? Is it really a 10? So that's why you get it graded. But in gold, you don't need it graded. And that's why I heavily suggest you do not buy graded gold or silver. You don't need it. We're not buying graded. We're buying gold. And it doesn't need to be graded. It's not worth more if it's proof or if it's an MS-70. It doesn't matter. You're buying an ounce of gold. It's now 2,900. That's what you're buying. So the lesson learned is you want to get into things as an investor, as a thing. So you have no risk. It's an investment. Where are my things? So you're looking at, is it risk? Is there investment? Is it good for retirement? And is it gambling? So those are your four things you're looking at. Do I have risk in the Brady card? Absolutely not. He's retired. So let's go through this. Is there risk in this? No, not. It's graded a 10. He's won 1,800 Super Bowls. It's a refractor. It's a rookie card. There's no risk in this. Is it an investment? Absolutely. It goes up in value. I paid maybe, let's say, 150. We saw the one that's not a refractor go for 7,700. So this has to be 25,000 easy. Can I use it in retirement? Absolutely. It's not going to go down in value in retirement. And is it gambling? Absolutely not. You're not gambling it. You are gambling stocks. You are gambling 401ks, real estate trust, money in the bank. Basically, everything to do with paper is a gamble, which you don't even understand. You're gambling. And that's the point of it. You are gambling heavily with the US dollar, because the gamble is you're not backing it by gold. That's why gold, there is no risk. It's not gambling, because it can't lose its value because it can't be printed. That's why the dollar and the euro and the yuan lose value, is they print them to death. And that's the risk you're taking, but it's a hidden risk that nobody knows, because nobody understands inflation. What do they say? Inflation's the money, is the price is going up. That's the other thing, Alligator. Alligator finally said that inflation was money printing, not the prices. That's why I put disclaimers in. So when I say a comment like that, I back it up with fact. And I said, because you can't, why isn't Coke $10 a bottle right now? because they can't sell it because Pepsi will be $2.90 and everybody will buy Pepsi. So Coke can't raise its price, which kills the thing that inflation is prices, because it isn't. It's money being printed. And Alligator finally admitted to that yesterday. I almost fell off my couch. Mark McGuire is realizing gold can't be printed. So I'm like, it's funny because I know they're listening to me, because they don't say this, and I say it over and over, and then all of a sudden they're saying exactly what I'm saying, like the cowboy saying about the Titanic and about Keynesian and Austrian. And I notice they're all talking Keynesian a little bit more, because we kill the Keynesians because we know it's bullshit. So we got all that. Let's see, Prophet, you gave me more. Yes, the online thing is for legal reasons. Yeah, I get that. She's in California, so I would get 50% of the gold in case of a divorce. Well, no, I know she would get 50%. I don't know what you would get. But that's if you got married in California, not if you end up moving to Florida, like you said, or Puerto Rico, or the Bahamas. Those are places that you'd be better off living, or a nice island in the Mediterranean, or in Europe. That'd be different, but that's what you have to see. So yeah, I mean, you just want to make sure that you get some of it, right? You don't care if you get half of it. That's fine. It's willing to pay $4,000 to get half. That's fine. If or 6 months, then do you trust her? Stay stoic with her. Marcus Aurelius her. See how she acts. You remain calm. See how, like Jenna, she finally, my name's not Jenna. Like, her real name is, what did I say? It's her real name is Yevhena. Her Ukrainian name's Yevhena, but in English it's Jenna. So I always call her Jenna, and now she's starting to say, "Oh, it's Yevhena," and I'm like, "Then why have I been calling you Jenna for the last 10 years?" So again, the truths start coming out eventually. All right, let's listen to what Egon has to say, and then we're going to go to Alligator.
Elon Musk, Vivek and his team, and they're definitely very interesting guys with pretty radical ideas. Is it going to be good for gold?
I've always had a long-term view on gold. I don't worry about if it goes down or a month or a year, whatever it is. To live long enough to actually experience it. The long-term trend is so clear. Every currency has gone to zero throughout history. No currency ever survived. It's going to be good for gold. Trump is good for gold, I think. Short-term, gold went down a little bit and the dollar went up. I don't think that's going to last. The trend is very clear to me. I think gold has started a major move, and whether we have a pause for a while, I don't think it'll be very long. Also linked to the stock market going up now. I don't think that will last either. I think we are in a massive bubble on the stock market. It could last for a few months or it could last for only a few weeks. So therefore, inflation is back. The 40-year cycle of interest rates going down ended in 21. Inflation is back up. Whatever they say about inflation, down to 2%, which it isn't at all, of course.
Elon Musk, Vivek and his team, and
see, there you go. That's why I enjoy listening to Egon. All right, this is Alligator. Now it's a long one, but there's little things. So this is somebody new, Gold Republic Global. I've never heard of. See, here's where I'm asking: why did they get 18,000 views, and I don't get 18,000 views? I'm confused by that. I've never heard of this Gold Republic. You go into it because Alligator's on it, but people don't understand Alligator, although he's finally starting to make sense.
We have so much credit now. This credit bubble.
Okay, so so he gives you these chapters. So if you clicked on description, you get these chapters. And that's what I usually go to. So he talks a lot about credit, which again, I'm hazy on that this is credit because, I go to the groceries. I went to the grocery store last night and I got groceries and I used this. Well, I actually used my debit card. So I'm struggling going, well, why is it credit? It's money. It's a medium of exchange. I get it to buy things with, Say's law. Say's law says supply creates demand. So I go to work, I turn in the supply, get paid. So now I'm supply, and now I demand Canadian Club, or I demand eggs and milk, and they supply it for me. So at the end of the day, I'm the one who calls the shots. I'm the market. And if you make it too expensive, I don't buy. I'll buy something else, or I'll go to a different store. So you got to be careful what you're doing. I still think where I buy my meat, all the stuff is way too expensive. The non-meat stuff, although the eggs were reasonable priced, but the veggies are terribly overpriced. It's a cauliflower. Why would your cauliflower be $5 and I can get it for $3 at Myers or at Walmart? Why are you so much more expensive? It's just the cauliflower. It doesn't make sense. And then my olive oil that I get from him, they're $19 a bottle, and at Myers they're 25. So some things are cheaper. His Ken's dressing are a lot more. I don't buy cereal. The tuna's more. So most of it I just ignore and go buy at Meijer. I buy the meats. I get the hamburger, the steaks. They're still very cheap and they're better quality, I believe. And you can get salmon, fresh salmon there. And then I get the chicken. I got the chicken ribs, and they were $2.29 a pound. So I got two of them. They were $10 for 4 or 5 pounds of chicken breast. So those type of things I go there for. But the rest, like even the pop's like $3.65 for Coke, $2.95 at Myers. Why would I buy them there? And I think their logic is, well, the people that have a lot of money that don't look at the prices can get everything at once. Me, I get the meat and the chicken, and if I want salmon, and then I drive to Meijer and pick up all my fruit and veggies, eggs, half and half, all that kind of stuff. I pick up at Meijer's because it's a lot cheaper. Occasionally when I'm working, I might get a 2 liter of Coke and pay another 30 cents for it because I'm already there if I'm not going to the other. But the Myers is only a mile. I'm on 9 Mile, they're on 8 Mile. And the rest of the stuff. So I go to the gym every day. So I pass right by the Bushes, which is the expensive store. So I'm not going out of my way. And then I got to go home and pass 8 Mile anyway. So I can then, so it's not like I'm going out of my way to get it. This guy at work says, "Oh, my dad does that, but he doesn't understand the gas." I go, "There's no extra gas. I'm going right by it for gym, and I live right there, so this is not costing me a nickel more in gas." Anyway, so that's what you're looking at is prices. Again, it's Say's law. It's what the market dictates. All right, so let's go to, let's see. We don't care about Alligator's. His background, he's a banker and he was a stockbroker. Okay, we get it. He's not an economist. All right, let's go to COMEX liquidity issues.
Weeks long. So where's the certainty in your possession, or a bullion bank holding your gold on owing it to you in COMEX? Well, the answer is that certainty has taken a big dive downwards. So what do? I want physical. I want it now. That's what they're saying. And this is the run that's occurring on COMEX. Americans will say gold is now a pet rock, but actually it's still central to the whole system. If you have a crisis in the gold market, that crisis spreads very rapidly into the derivatives market. And then that goes into the complete credit bubble, which has been rolled up since the mid-1980s into one mega bubble, which when it bursts will be like a tsunami. Russia, I think, would go on to gold tomorrow. bring about the end to the dollar. If you've got a world which is moving towards a gold standard, you've got to move pretty quickly. Otherwise, your currency becomes valueless very quickly.
Welcome to the Microscopic Podcast presented by Gold Republic. My name is
Dollar. If you've got a world which is moving towards a gold standard, you've got to move pretty quickly. Otherwise, your currency becomes valueless very quickly. Now, I think it was in 1912, John Pierpont Morgan, in commentary to the Congress, said that gold is money and the rest is credit. All the rest is credit. And what he was meaning, he was actually just stating what the common law position was. If I pay you for something and I pay you in gold coins, that's money. If, on the other hand, I pay you with, let us say, a transfer from my bank account to your bank account, whether it's electronic or check or whatever, I'm paying you in credit. Now, we might extinguish, if you like, the debt between us, but the credit gets passed on to someone else. It's got passed on to you. My credit's got passed on to you, as it were. So credit is actually what we all use. The relationship between money and credit is it's the value of money which fixes the value of credit. The only adjustments between the two should be the risk of default, either by the issuer or by whoever is issuing credit in his name. So, you've got a bank, let us say, which might have a risk of default. You have got on top of that the risk of the issuer defaulting. And this was the basis whereby credit was actually tied completely to money. And it's still the case today. And interestingly, at the time of Rome's 12 Tables was approximately the time of Confucius in China. China wasn't part of our system at all. But and also the philosophers in Greece, Aristotle, Plato, and all the rest of it, we're all talking about the same sort of era. And it's just interesting how the human race, unconnected in many ways, or hardly connected, came up with this evolution of philosophy and law in slightly different ways, but the whole basis was common. And the reason that Roman law, as originally defined in the 12 Tables, and subsequently refined by jurists, the reason that has worked and survived is because it is so close to what we really want as human beings. I mean, credit isn't just something that banks issue. You might say, ask someone to decorate your house. They will decorate the house, and then you pay them. The decorator, if you like, is giving you credit for his work, assuming that you will discharge that.
I disagree with that. That's not what. If this is credit, having a guy paint your house is not the same thing. That's simply, I'll pay you after you do your job. It's not credit. It's you want to do the job, so you're willing to paint the house and then get paid after. Your risk is he won't pay you. The risk, if I pay the guy up front, is he won't show up. And we all know that story, right? Oh, I paid the guy and then he's disappeared. So by the bad apples, you then say, I'm not paying you. Well, generally what would happen is you pay for the paint. So let's say it's going to cost you $500. You give him $100 to go buy the paint. And he comes and his labor and painting it. And then as he's painting it, then he's done. And then you pay him. It's not credit. It's more of a trust issue, but real credit is like a credit card. I went and bought, a quarter ounce of gold. It cost $800. I used my credit card, and now I have to pay the credit card, but I got the gold with the credit card. That's more what credit is, not somebody painting your house or doing stuff like that. Just a second. I want to get something. Alligator bets about 500. Some things he gets and some things he just doesn't get. All right.
Debt to him, when it's paid. So credit is everything. It really is. You might send a child to university. The promise is that you will fund the child through university. So you are giving the child a credit, if you like. And everything, literally, absolutely everything runs on credit. And the reason that it...
All right, Alligator, you're getting a little bit. Let's go to Rome and Marcus Aurelius.
So this process basically meant that prices continued to rise. Why? It wasn't the prices right. It wasn't so much the prices rising. It was the value of the coinage falling because the silver was all going out of it. Now Diocletian produced an edict of maximum prices in around about 303.
Talking about the Romans.
So we're talking about some sort of 750 years, 800 years after the law was first set. And if you look at the prices in that edict, it's fascinating. Now, there's some things which don't exist anymore. We don't have slave markets, thank goodness. So the various categories of slaves and all the rest of it, you can no longer value. But if you look at some pretty normal everyday items like clothing, like food, beer, wine, things like that, the prices measured in gold are not too dissimilar to what they were at that time. So in other words, this is really confirmation that the purchasing power of gold is relatively constant. When you look at what's happened to prices, particularly since the end of Bretton Woods, prices have risen everywhere very substantially. It's really the purchasing power of credit in the form of currencies which has declined. So this is terribly important. Anyone who thinks that gold is rising is actually looking at it through the wrong end of the telescope. It's not gold rising, it's their currency declining.
Alligator. Again, it is gold rising. It's not because the currency has no value. So if gold goes up, it's because more people are demanding gold, like the Super Bowl tickets. In this concept, he just doesn't quite understand it. What he's saying is, well, the ounce of gold, still an ounce of gold, so that's remained the same, but it's not. It's gone up because of the demand for bricks now, and he just has a hard time getting that.
Actually declined. And the interesting thing is that even though you had some very serious banking crises, like the Baring crisis, the O'Brien Gurney crisis, and the Bank of Glasgow crisis, you had these crises, but they didn't actually destabilize prices, which was interesting. So, the Keynesian idea that falling prices is a sign that you need to sort of stimulate them. You've got to keep them at 2% plus and all the rest of it. It actually has no basis in experience, if you like. Let's put it that way. But where the 1870s come in is really in the wake of the Franco-Prussian War, because Germany managed to get reparations from France in the form of gold. So she went from a silver standard onto a gold standard, and other countries in Europe followed. And it was from that point that the gold-silver ratio rose. In other words, the value of silver relative to gold fell from around about 15, 16 times to currently, as we speak, it's just under 90 times. So that was, if you like, the demonetization of silver. And I would say that the 1870s was really remarkable for that, rather than a new face of the gold standard. The gold standard spread, if you like. I'm sure, to a large extent, due to the successful implementation of it in the UK.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but the UK then after the war repegged to gold and created a massive deflationary shock thereby.
Well,
in the 1925.
Yeah, it's basically what happened was that there was a bullion commission, and it was determined that Britain should go back onto the world gold standard. It was effectively a bullion standard in 1925, and that stuck until 1932. The problem, I think, was not so much as stated, because, the analysis nowadays is by Keynesians who actually get this completely wrong. So don't trust what you read about these things.
Or don't trust Keynesians.
What I would say is that the Depression in America started. We had a real financial collapse. I mean, something like 9,000 banks went out of business in America. And it's interesting, everybody says, well, of course, money supply contracted, and that's what really killed it. Well, actually, what happened was that because all these banks went bust, it was just default. They defaulted. And so, money supply, which is actually the supply of credit, just basically went out of the system. But the problems in America, which were brought about by trade, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, to a large extent, plus the unwinding of the credit bubble from the 1920s, which had been fueled by Benjamin Strong, who was the chairman of the Fed at that time. It was that combination which really led to an enormous slump under Hoover, President Hoover. That was 1929 through into 1932. That was the end of that bear market. Hoover was an interventionist. He was the first really of the interventionists. Until then, every politician knew, don't mess around with the economy. It'll sort itself out. You had a cycle of bank credit. Obviously you do, and that's a separate topic. But politicians until Hoover knew, and particularly Calvin Coolidge, I mean, he knew, don't muck around with the economy. But no, Hoover was an interventionist, and everything he did made it worse. And he was followed by Roosevelt, who did exactly the same thing. And the result was that what could have been a short, sharp depression, maybe lasting 15 months, 2 years at the outside, rather like the 1920 to 21 depression following the First World War in America, that drove America off the gold standard. In 1934, January 34, it was revalued from $20.67 to $35 an ounce. And, not only that, but the Depression lasted until the First World War, when, of course, all the figures get fudged. So it just went on and on.
He means the Second World War.
Was, the economic profession, which really sort of particularly following the 1930s, 1936 onwards, when Keynes produced his general theory, have really put the whole thing down to, the wrong reasons. It was actually quite clear. It was a banking crisis. It was a depression, which, and there was no role for government. Government just messed it up. But no, what Keynes decided was that there had to be a role for governments. And of course, when governments start getting involved, things become suboptimal. They always do. And the result is that the pressure to finance their failures by extending unbacked credit in increasing quantities, in other words, reflected in an increase in the quantity of currency in circulation, the pressures become enormous on them to do so. And that is why eventually, when you had the Second World War, the new Bretton Woods system came into play, and that was very much at the behest of the Americans. They wanted the gold, the dollar to be up there. So rather than go for Keynes's idea of the bank call, they went for the dollar backed by gold. It's backed by gold with us, nobody else. You all come to us for your gold. And by the way, you come via your central banks. We don't deal with anyone else. So that was the basis of Bretton Woods. It was a con trick, but it lasted from 44, which was when Bretton Woods was agreed, all the way up to 1971, when America...
All right, let's... All right, let's talk about the COMEX run.
In the case of gold, It is. The problem is really with COMEX. COMEX is the futures market. It's the regulated futures market. In the case of gold, we're really looking New York. Now, there is a facility on COMEX whereby when a contract ends, when it expires, because all futures contracts have an expiry date, month per month per month. When it expires, you have a choice, theoretically anyway. If you have bought a contract, you can sell that contract in order to close out your position. Alternatively, you can stand for delivery. Now, this means that you can say to whoever you bought the contract off, I want delivery of the underlying metal. It was never intended that this credit market would interact with the physical market in any meaningful way. And indeed, if you talk to hedge fund managers and all the rest of it, their trade is very, very simple. They say, I either sell dollar, buy gold, or I buy gold, sell dollar. In other words, they will always close the position out by taking the contrary position that they originally took out in the futures market and never, ever consider taking delivery. Well, since COVID, and particularly since 2021, I've started tracking this daily, there have been what are called stands for delivery, and these have been mounting. Now, so far, in the last 4 years, the amount stood for delivery is around about 2,200 tons of gold. Now, bearing in mind that, this is, 2,200 tons is a hell of a lot of gold.
That is about 10% of actual gold reserves in central banks worldwide.
Yeah. Now, the story gets a little more complicated here because if you stand for delivery, it's actually quite a complex process. In order to secure your gold, you've got to do two things. Firstly, you've got to persuade someone to deliver it to you. Now, under the rules, you can do that, but you find that people are very reluctant for you to do so. There are instances where small traders have been threatened. Look, if you want delivery, you'll never deal in this market again. No, that's anecdotal. Only 2 days ago, there was a fascinating article published on the Garter website, which is the gold and sort of anti-tariff action group or whatever they call it, which actually is a very, very good source of information on the market, whereby an individual who was a dealer for a Sprott, which was one of the big Canadian buyers and managers, if you like, of a silver trust, they bought a lot of silver through futures and stood for delivery. This was meant to be a 5-day settlement. It took them 9 months to get that delivery. So many hurdles were placed in the way to discourage the delivery. Now, the other thing is there is a difference between, let us say, a bullion bank recognizing that you have taken delivery and it actually leaving the COMEX vaults. They're two completely separate things. If the bullion bank reckons, yeah, okay, we finally agreed, you can take your 100 contracts, 1,000 contracts, whatever it might be of gold. We turn that into bullion. 1,000 is 100,000 ounces. Okay, you've got 100,000 ounces. We'll look after it for you. And here's a piece of paper that says that we're looking after it for you. Is it there? No. All you have got is a credit. We're coming back to the, the definition of what's money and credit. You've got a credit. In other words, the bullion bank has an obligation to deliver to you 100,000 ounces of gold. Does it actually have it? Not necessarily. Now, we get back to where we are today.
So that's what you have in Bitcoin. You don't even have the coin, but you think you have the coin. So your account shows you with the coin, but it's not real. You don't even have it. And this is what's going to tumble out Bitcoin. All right, we'll get to that
Trump
in a minute.
gets elected on the 5th of November. Foreigners dealing through Globex in particular don't like the idea of a Trump presidency. They know he interferes. He turns around on a dime and says, he changes everything like that. So where's the certainty in your possession or a bullion bank holding your gold and owing it to you in COMEX? Well, the answer is that certainty has taken a big dive downwards. So what do? I want physical. I want it now. That's what they're saying. And this is the run that's occurring on COMEX. And not only
So what is it doing? As we talked about risk, this increases risk. Well, you say I have it in paper, and this is basically ETFs, right? You say I have it, but I can't get it. But you really don't, but you're giving me a receipt that I have it. I want the physical. That's why I tell you buy the physical, because then you have it and nobody can bullshit you and say, oh, yeah, I have it, but you can't have it right now. That's the thing. So that's increased risk. Price demand goes out. So you get out of the paper gold and into the physical gold because there's less risk. There's the Montana card, right? Well, you say it's a 10, but I don't see it marked as a 10. So I'm not going to give you as much because there's risk that this card isn't real, isn't a 10. But if it's graded 10, I have no risk. I know it's real, and I know it's a gem mint card, and I know it's 100,000. But like this, I don't know that it's a 10. I don't even know if it's authentic. I mean, I'm sure it is, but I don't know that. So I don't know it's a 10, and therefore it's not worth the 100 grand. But if it is, and that's where the risk comes in. That's why you get the card graded, and that's why you get physical gold, and don't ETF, and don't buy stock, and don't, you got to be careful with stocks and bonds because you don't own that shit. And that's the problem. You think you own it, and then they're going to do it. And there's a thing he's got on that also. All right, so here, let's go here.
My question is then, what do you think we would call this crisis if it happens and when it will happen? But most important of all, what will be the consequences?
Well, Armageddon is a pretty good word, I think.
This is when the money collapses.
I mean, the consequences are the destruction of the currency, destruction of credit, in effect. But the route going there, it will involve various things. I mean, the first thing I would see is that where the credit has bubbled financially, that's going to get destroyed in particular. So you will see the stock markets collapse. You will see bond yields rise because the credibility of credit, deteriorates. Then who's going to want to hold bonds in that credit? I mean, except at a far higher yield. So the value of bonds will diminish very substantially. And quite a lot of corporate bonds, I think, will probably go bankrupt as well. The idea that you can protect yourself owning property, I mean, history is not very kind to that idea. And the reason basically is that most property in America, in this country, various other countries, and I was actually asked by a central bank in Scandinavia to visit them and give them my views. And we were talking about property, and there's absolutely no rental market in that country at all, and everybody's got to pay very, very high prices to get a roof over their head. Finance is central, really, to property values, residential property values, and so as interest rates rise, that's going to knock that market badly. And then if we really do get a currency collapse, I mean, I've quoted this so many times in interviews, but the author Stefan Zweig, who was an Austrian author back in the sort of time of the First World War and into the 20s and 30s, he lived through the inflations in Austria and also Germany. And he recounted in his memoirs that you could buy a 6-bedroom house in, a good part of Berlin for $100. $100, of course. Dollar was on the gold standard at 20.67 to the ounce, so it's slightly less than 5 ounces of gold. That's what happens to the value of property. Now, I don't know how many zillions of marks that represented, but you can see the point that it might go, it might rise if you like in your currency terms, but if your currency is no better than just waste paper, then it's not going to cut any ice at all. Yeah, I mean, the other problem with property is that, of course, under those circumstances, the cost of maintaining property becomes more than its value. So property is not a good thing to, it doesn't protect you in that, in that ultimate collapse. And equities is another area which people think, well, this gives me some protection. Now, if you get a gentle slide in purchasing power of a currency, then yes, because the capital value, if you like, of businesses and all the rest of it will tend to stay with prices generally, and maybe even better benefit, because the thing about inflation is that workers' wages probably don't rise as fast and all the rest of it, so you can probably improve your margins and all the rest of it. Well, that's fine. But when credit really does collapse, you've then got the problem of deciding, well, what actually is my relationship with this company? And the answer is that it's credit. You may not think it's credit, but when you buy shares in a company, you are basically being given a commitment by the management to accumulate an income or pay you an income in dividends on your behalf as a shareholder in the company. Now, that's a credit. What you're doing is you are crediting the management with the ability to do that, and the management is indebted to provide that expectation, to meet that expectation, or the general expectation of its shareholders. But that's made even worse now, because you don't even own shares. You don't have a certificate anymore, which marks that credit. Instead, you've got an entry on sort of some central counterparty like Euroclear, who stands between you and the company. So as far as the company is concerned, even though it might communicate with you as a supposed shareholder, as far as the company is concerned, shareholder is actually Euroclear. Now, this matters because in a crisis, Euroclear has that principal relationship in terms of the credit with a company, and can use that as collateral without your say-so. Oh yes, as Euroclear, yes, of course we will honour our obligations to you. We will protect your interests. In other words, it's the same relationship between a bank and yourself, with your bank deposits, you thinking that that's your money, but actually it's not. It's the bank's money, and they owe it to you. It's an obligation. It's exactly the same with shares, but with that extra problem that now they've put an intermediary in there which can then use your property as collateral against their problems. The whole system has become rather difficult to justify.
And in that scenario, gold would then, I guess, also.
This is the great thing, because you own gold, you possess it. There's absolutely no doubt about the ownership of that gold. You're not relying on anyone's form of credit, and that's going to become increasingly important.
And what if government, just like it did in the beginning of the 20th century, starts confiscating gold?
Well, you can't stop governments from changing things like that. But it's interesting. I had a bit of a debate with a very close friend who's also very much in this industry about the in 1933 when Roosevelt confiscated gold. He didn't actually confiscate it. What he did was, under the gold standard at that time, at 20.67, he required everybody in America to submit their gold and their gold certificates in return for dollars at the official rate. You could argue technically that's not confiscation, because you're being forced to exchange like for like. But tell that to anyone who submitted their gold certificates and then found that the following January, the dollar was devalued by 40%. As I understand it, the only people who really submitted their gold certificates and gold coins and all the rest of it were actually banks. Banks on your behalf. You might have had something in a bank vault. They're looking after it for you. You lost it. Another reason to keep out of the banking system when it's very risky.
And also, yes, or have it in a vault somewhere, which is you're the legal owner of.
Yeah.
And so it's a bit of a obvious topic at the moment, is that we've seen Bitcoin rise also in price, and is also called so by some the digital gold. The Czech actually president of the Czech central bank put in motion a policy to actually acquire Bitcoin. They've also famously quadrupled their gold reserves in the last couple of years, and they just want to own reserves of assets that are independent of third parties of the financial system, and everything you underlined before. First, what is your stance on Bitcoin?
Well, I look at it from the legal point of view, again, going back in common law. It's got absolutely no function as money in common law. It's actually as plain as that. There is a few further confusion which you must be aware of, and that is in the case of criminal activity, let us say someone steals your wallet and then goes and spends it in a local shop. You have no recourse against the shopkeeper at all. And even if you've sort of looked at the numbers and you've recorded them and you've maybe taken a picture on your iPhone and said, look, those are mine and so on, you've got no recourse against the shopkeeper. If, on the other hand, that painting on the wall gets stolen and it sort of ends up being auctioned through an unwittingly, an auction house that doesn't realize it's been stolen, and someone in all good faith goes and buys it and you recognize it, you can reclaim it without any compensation whatsoever. Now, the question is, what category does Bitcoin fit into legally from the criminal point of view? It has a blockchain which identifies every single Satoshi in the whole of the Bitcoin universe. Is it like that painting on the wall, or is it like cash? Now, this is, I think, yet to be ruled on, but given the very high level of criminal activity being laundered through Bitcoin, particularly in the early days, I would think there's a very high possibility that the Bitcoin you think you own is actually not your property. I mean, what I would say is that it's been a fascinating innovation, this blockchain and all the rest of it. But I think fundamentally governments don't like it, and I would suspect that given half a chance, they will jump down on it. Now, I know that some governments are looking at this and they don't actually maybe understand, this distinction in criminal law fully. But generally, I think when it comes to the application, I think firstly, you won't see America, despite what Trump says, you won't see America adopt cryptocurrencies at all, because it will threaten the future of the dollar, just purely from that point of view. And I think a smart lawyer in America might tell the US Treasury, look, we can actually get rid of this very quickly. The problem is it's going to destroy an awful lot of wealth, credit, if it collapses. But it will collapse because it correlates very, very neatly with the Magnificent Seven tech stocks. In other words, it's the same cohort buying the tech stocks as buying Bitcoin and giving it its value. So when they collapse, which inevitably they will do, rather like NASDAQ did back in 2008, that's going to happen again, but this time probably a bit more so. It'll take Bitcoin with it. There's going to be an awful lot of money lost, which we know is credit.
But if you can, through the blockchain and based on the access with a private wallet, prove that you have the ownership of those particular Satoshi.
No, but the point is, you don't own it. If it was the proceeds of crime, you don't own it. You think you do, but you don't own it. You may possess it, but you don't own it.
Just the same logic as, let's say, what you described with cash.
No, it's the logic that I described with the painting on the wall.
But the painting on the wall, you can tie back to the ownership of it.
Yeah, but through the blockchain, you can do exactly the same. Now, if the government decide that, these Bitcoins and these Satoshi were actually the proceeds of crime, they can come and get it off you. And what do you get? Big fat zero.
Because of what we call tainted Bitcoins, for example.
Well, you could call it tainted if you like, but it's quite simply that there is this distinction in law, which again goes back to Roman times. Between, and it's not just currency, but for example, food like vegetables, which have a very limited life. If someone steals your cauliflowers, you can't necessarily get them back. Now, if they're all still in the thief's lorry, then you can probably get them back. But, if someone does steal them, then they have to replace it like with like. So you've got a fungibility factor. But with Bitcoin, arguably, because the blockchain identifies each single Bitcoin, then the authorities could take the view, I'm not saying they will necessarily, but they could take the view that it's rather like the painting on the wall being stolen rather than like cash.
But that view is not set yet, if I'm understood correctly, because there's no precedent to it yet.
Well, the precedent is in Roman law, but the problem is that Roman law was constructed before the time of Bitcoin. So you have to decide, what actually is it?
But that is now from a purely legal perspective. But if, let's say, we look at it from a purely monetary perspective about the way the network has been designed.
Well, the answer is it's not money. It's quite simple. Speculative asset. I mean, it's the concept of the speculation, I think, is really very, very simple. And that is, you've got a limited number of Bitcoin, which I think is the maximum of, is it 21 or 22 million coins?
21.
Meanwhile, governments have unlimited printing ability of credit currencies. So, simple maths, if you like, in that sense. And I would say that Bitcoin has certainly woken up a lot of people to the disadvantages of fiat currencies. But, in terms of being an answer to it, it's actually driven by speculation. And there's so much crime around it. It's just incredible. I mean, I'm sure you get it. I get it all the time. People trying to persuade me to buy Bitcoin. It's all easy money and so on and so forth. In other words, they've got to keep the bubble going. They've got to keep the bubble going. But as we know, it's a credit bubble. And rather like tulips, okay, tulips existed, but, it was the value that you put on them that collapsed.
Alistair, it's been a pleasure talking with you for, I think, almost 2 hours, if I look at the time. I didn't see him pass. The only thing I know is that my stomach just sent me signals that I'm hungry, so that must be a long time. I really am very, very grateful that you made it. So meaning of the maybe rather deglobalized trends, and how will gold play a role in that?
Well, in terms of global trade, I mean, what Trump is doing is a trend which I think has been continuing now ever since COVID, really. So in his first term, supply chains are being dismantled. To an extent, they've already been changed by American businesses because they've relocated quite a lot of their production from China to Mexico, which is now on the firing line, as we know. And Mexico is now a very, very big exporter to America for that reason, as well as the energy side. And I think that, the problem with, there is a big argument about, do we protect ourselves from free trade, or do we allow free trade? Now, if you allow free trade, really, essentially, you're looking at it from the consumer's point of view. Why should I not have choice? If someone is going to produce something cheaper, why can't I buy that? You could take that argument and put it into, if you like, a slightly more alarming context for the people who think that trade is not necessarily a good thing. I live near Exeter. Okay, they make a few things in Exeter. I'm sure they also make things up here which are similar. Should I in Exeter go and buy the local stuff in preference to the stuff in London because it's local? I mean, okay, I've got a choice. I can make that choice if I want. But as a policy of running my life, this is obviously crazy. So what's the difference really between buying something made anywhere in the United Kingdom and, let's say, buying the same thing from Holland, the Netherlands, or America, or China, or whatever? I mean, the answer basically is that from the consumer's point of view, he really wants to have what he regards as the best for his desires at any particular moment. As far as governments are concerned, of course, they look at it rather differently. They look at things strategically. Take the steel industry, for example. China manufactures, sort of mild steel very, very competitively. It's cheaper, let's say, than steel produced in Wales here. So what do? Do we put up tariffs against the steel? In other words, raise the prices for all the manufacturers who use steel in their in whatever it is they produce? Or do we say, well, thank you, China, for that gift. If you're subsidizing it, I don't give a damn. It's jolly good value. Go for it. I mean, the answer is free trade is always better for an economy. And the guys down the road in Wales either have to shut up or put up. And, if they've got trade union problems and all the rest of it, I mean, that's all part of the mix. They should compete. They must compete. Now, what Trump is doing is he is, with Make America Great Again, he's trying to repatriate manufacturing back into America. By doing this, he is disrupting supply chains, the whole thing. The whole paraphernalia, if you like, of the gradual movement towards greater trade freedom is being reversed. The effect is to drive up the consumer price index, bound to be, because tariff goods, you've got tariffs, who pays the tariff? The consumer does. That's in the short term. In the longer term, with less competition, American business will become less efficient, and therefore there will be higher prices, less value out of American competition. It really is not the way to go. The consequences of an earlier time, Smoot-Hawley Act of 1930, admittedly the circumstances were something different. We didn't have supply chains, but what we did have was the mechanization of agriculture in the 20s, which kept agricultural prices low. The tariffs basically didn't protect the American farmer at all, because they were even overproducing on the domestic economy. But it drove down prices elsewhere. My grandparents were farming in Kenya. We were farming, a mixture of cattle. We had barley. We had coffee. We had, pyrethrum, which is probably a bit of an exception to this. But, we know that, the effect on global agricultural prices was absolutely catastrophic, and also on industry as a whole. Not just abroad, but also for America. American businesses, when they came to buying in, say, part manufactured items, were having to pay an average of an extra 28 to 60% tariffs. We don't know how this is going to pan out with Trump. What we do know is he has an intention to replace, as you say, with this beautiful word, tariffs. He's going to try and replace income tax and corporation tax to either wholly or to a large degree. So, he is going to rely on tariffs. And what we had in the 1930s was Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act on top of the Fordney-Macumber Tariff Act of 1920, or was it 21, which drove up tariffs quite severely. And you had a credit bubble bursting. Hold on, what's going on now? We have got the biggest credit bubble in history, thanks to 50 years plus of post-Bretton Woods fiat currency.
And that comes also in the context of inflation, right? We've seen and maybe that's also one of the signs of what you mentioned as the biggest credit bubble that we'll ever witness, is maybe the comeback of this. We've seen our inflation that peaked around above it, hovering the 10%, now being back to, they tried to get close to 2%, but that was not really possible, and is at 3%, and is actually about to pick up again, and it looks awfully close or similar to what we've seen in the 1970s, and I think you witnessed it firsthand, if I may say so.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And do you believe that this is a revival, and that we will see much higher inflation in a decade to come, similar, akin to the 70s?
Well, the first thing is, don't rely on the numbers that government departments produce. I mean, in the 1970s, when we had inflation, I think briefly at something like 25%. By that, we mean that, if you like, a basket of goods rose in price. Basket of goods put together by a government department rose in average by 25%. Now, since then, and particularly since the 1980s, governments have fiddled the figures to reduce them, because there's so many things which are index linked to, either consumer price inflation, or in this country, the retail price inflation as well, that it is a cost on government to see prices rising. So what do? They don't stop prices rising, but they stop the statistics rising. So forget that entirely. That really is a load of nonsense. When it comes to interest rates, the primary function of interest rates is not, as the central bankers will tell you, to try and manage an economic outcome, but to manage the exchange rate. Bear that in mind, because as credit gets sold down in return for money, in other words, credit loses its purchasing power, which is actually what, people talk about inflation. It's actually the currency losing purchasing power. Yeah, it's not prices rising, it's the currency going down always. When that happens,
oh my God, he actually is listening to us. I've been saying that for 3 years now, and everybody thinks it's the CPI, and there you go. It's the purchasing power going down, not prices. I heard that. I fell off the couch. That was just unbelievable. That's enough of Alligator. It's not much new that we don't talk about already, but it's good to hear an opinion, and then it's good to hear Alligator actually listening to us and understanding what we're talking about, as you guys already get that firsthand from me. What else? So that's Mark McGuire. It's a long. It's a 2-hour show, which is extremely long. Let's see. I love looking at these things. When someone no longer loves you, they will first do these two things. Probably not talk to you and whatever. And then if you want to watch the Super Bowl, you can watch the condensed version. I usually watch those 20, 25 minutes and you get the Super Bowl. Don't watch Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff weighs on America's gold mystery. There's no gold mystery. We sold the gold to the Chinese. So what do we need to listen to Peter Schiff? Like he knows what's going on. Elon and Joe Rogan discussed the Fort Knox gold audit. All right. It's all planned for the end of March. I thought it was planned for the end of February. This is Victor Davis Hanson. I might watch a little of this later. I'm not going to bore you with that. The real reason Trump is going to Fort Knox, and it's genius. Who's this fucker? Heritage wealth planning. I don't know. See, that's what I'm getting at. It's 7 minutes. I can give 7 minutes. The other one is like an hour. I can't. But because it was Alligator or Mark McGuire does an hour and a half, I can. You can listen to it. So that's why I sometimes depend. If it's Egon talking for an hour, I'll listen to it. If it's Marcus Aurelius, I'll listen to it. When you get to Peter Schiff or Rickards, I don't even waste my time with it because I already know that you already established that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Trump liberated U.S. from the stupidity of waging war in Russia. See, I'll watch this guy. He's good. Douglas McGregor seems to know what's going on. Most of the other guys don't. So it's a way that you, as I say, you got to know who to listen to and who to not listen to. And so people listen to the wrong person, give them bad information, and they think they know what's going on. And that's where I'm hearing Alligator start talking Keynesian, and I hear Mark McGuire start talking Keynesian. I don't hear Egon, but he is Austrian. He kind of understands it. I specifically say Austrian because I want to differentiate. And because people don't know there's two types of economics, Austrian and Keynesian. People don't know this. I didn't know this until I was in my master's class, sitting down for my Austrian economics class. And I don't know if it was called Austrian economics. Since I sat down and was explained that this is Austrian, there's two types. It's either the government controls the market or where we control the market. And when it's we control the market, makes it much, much easier to understand it. And it's the correct way. Keynesians doesn't work. So why they're still using Keynesian is because the governments are all corrupt and want to print the money, and you can't. In gold, if you have $1 million of gold, you can only have $1 million in currency because it's supposed to be redeemable. And so you can revalue the gold and say, well, now it's worth $2 million, and now I can print another $1 million, but they can't print it. If it's gold backed, they can only print until they run out of gold. That's it. $1 million, that's it. But they can't pay for their wars, and this whole wars kill the recession. Well, guess what? If you had the gold standard, you wouldn't have wars, you wouldn't have inflation, and you wouldn't have unemployment and recessions and depressions because they're based on printing money too much. The central banks print too much money, causes the inflation because that's what money printing, and it causes unemployment because you got to lay off people because the prices there get screwed up, and then it causes the depressions. So you got a lot of problems with the money printing that the central banks do. If you stuck with gold, you'd never have a war because you couldn't afford it. You'd never have inflation because you can't print the money more than what you have. So that's the real reason you want the gold standard, but yet it's the reason the governments don't want it because they want to keep printing it because they're all corrupt. So that's really the point. But once you understand that Keynesians doesn't work because printing, what do you hear? Oh, we can print money. We can just keep printing money as much as we want. Well, that's fantasy. You can't. You can only print as much as you can print. After that, you can't print more because then you cause inflation, which is overprinting, printing the money, making it worthless. Well, the money isn't worthless if it's backed by gold. The gold gives it the value. So this is the first mistake the governments make is they get off the gold standard onto fiat, which is just printing money, which has to be inflationary. As Egon said in the beginning, they all go to zero. You have wars, which from 1879 to 1914, you had no wars. Until World War I, you had no wars because you couldn't print money and you needed to print more for the war and you needed to inflate it to get guns and weapons and tanks and everything. And that's what happens. And look at Britain. They go out. Britain goes out because they have to pay for the weapons with gold because they can't print any more money. So they pay with gold. I mean, Britain, I would have passed and said, well, I know you're going to go bankrupt with the inflated dollars. I have gold, so I'm fine. So that's what they should have done, but they didn't. But this is the problem. So let's see what our gold's at. See if it's back to 2,900. But I did want to show you that Brady card. You got to be careful because it's a refractor. It's worth a lot more. 28.90. So we're staying there, and we're now at 1 o'clock, 120. Silver C back to 31.69. So it's just a game they're playing. This is not supply and demand. This is just bullshit derivatives. 28.90, 91, up 31, and that's the problem. And but if you don't understand that and you see it drop, you get panicky. Oh my God, it's going to go down. And what do I try to calm you down, saying it's just derivatives. It's not people selling the gold. And therefore, as long as the demand for gold stays, the price will go up, which is what we got. Central banks, as long as the dollar's printed without gold, it'll go out and people will buy gold to get to the lifeboat. Again, the Titanic, they're all printing because they're not on the gold standard. And the gold boat's just sitting there because it's down because it's being price fixed. But, here we go, 28.90. We're knocking at 29, and this time we'll see if we can get to 3,000. Hopefully we can, because once I think it hits 3, it goes to 31, 32 pretty quickly. And that's what we knew. So I had a new thought on this hit me last night on retirement. So I'm concerned, oh shit, I don't want to spend my gold, and therefore it's how much cash do I have, and how do you retire without a paycheck, right? So you're getting a paycheck your whole life, you retire, you're not getting a paycheck. Before you would get a pension from the company and they'd give you so much a month. Well, that kind of went out. So now they get 401ks, which they match. And as Mark McGuire said, or as Alligator said, yeah, but this Euroclear is the one that owns the stocks, and they're the ones who get it, not you. So even though you have 100 shares of Apple, you really don't. It's really Equiclear or Euroclear. So you don't even have the stock that you think you have. And so what do they teach you? Well, when you retire, you'll be in stocks that give you dividends, and that'll be your income, because you still got to pay rent and eat and utilities and all this still costs money. And so I was going, well, I used to have a lot of money in the bank, and I would have used that money. I would have said, oh, I got $250,000 in the bank. I'll just pull a grand here and a grand there and pay my bills, and off I go. But I'm fine. I got a lot of money. Now, here's the catch, but the money isn't worth anything. And if the stocks collapse, which they're about to, and the money collapses, which it's about to, now you're retired with nothing. And how do you live? That's the part that they don't teach you. You can live off of Social Security if you're in a small enough house. If you're in a house where you retired and you're a manager, and you're in a $400,000 house, and your mortgage is $3,000 a month, you're not paying it with Social Security. So how do you live, right? You're fucked. You think you have 400 or 500 grand in stocks and mutual in a 401k, and you're going to get dividends. That's what the retirement planner will do, who doesn't understand gold or silver or inflation is printing the money. So I thought about it, and I got the revelation then today. I says, if I had the 250,000 in the bank, I would just pull, but it's in gold. And the problem is, I don't want to pull the gold because the gold is still going up. So it's very difficult to where I could sell this and make 100 grand. Can I sell? The gold's only worth 3,000. Well, let's take silver. Silver's $30 an ounce. I know it's going to 1,000. So I'm sitting there going, well, I don't want to sell my silver yet at 30. I probably paid 20 for most of it. So it's at 30. I don't want to sell it for 30 because it's going up. And that's my dilemma. So my retirement, which would have been 250,000 in cash, and I pull off a grand here and a grand there, and I got 240, I'm fine. Now it's all in gold and silver, which I don't want to spend to do the retirement. And that's where I'm kind of fucked up, because I'm sitting there going, oh, wait, no, I have a lot of assets. I have gold and silver. And then I keep saying, well, when gold and silver starts to move, when gold hits 10,000 and silver finally goes to 500, then I'm looking good. That's instead of my dividends and stocks, which are going to zero, I have something that's going up. And that's my point. But I can understand people getting very, how do I retire? Because the biggest thing is, since we're people of structure, and we're people of, over and over again, I can't think of that word, because we are systems people. You wake up on Monday, you go to work, boom, Friday, Saturday, you're off on the weekend. We're creatures of habit. That's what I'm thinking. And because we're creatures of habit, we're used to getting a paycheck. I know I've been getting a paycheck since I was 16 at the grocery store, and still making my football money on the side. I always made my football money on the side. And so you have, since 16, so it's a lot of years that I've been getting a paycheck every week or 2 weeks or whatever. And then you spend your money with it, and then you start saving a little bit. So that's really the creature of habit in you. And that's what's really hard about retiring. You no longer get that paycheck. And so during the travels from when you're 16 to when you're going to retire, you need to buy assets. So this is lesson learned. Buy your assets, be it cards, be it Rolexes, be it gold and silver. Most people, what do? They're in 401ks and they're buying stocks, which aren't real. As he said, you don't even own them, right? This Euroclear owns the stock that they can take. Now, most of the time you can sell your 100 shares of Apple and the money goes into your account, but it's a retirement account, let's say, and you can't touch it or you pay tax on it. Now, maybe you actually have a stock account that's not IRA that you can then do it, but then you get to pay tax on the gain. What do you do with that? So that's really what you're ending up with is that. So that's where you get fucked up when you've got it into gold. It's the perfect play. There's no tax, there's no capital gains. You just take it and off you go. And the thing is, but we're waiting for it to go up. So you have some that you could possibly sell, but you don't want to sell too much at 3,000 when it's going to 30,000, or silver at 30 when it's going to 300. And that's my problem right now is, well, I don't want to touch it because I know it's going to go up. Now it'll affect me now, but later when it goes up, then I told Daria, we'll retire when the gold and silver does what I know it will do, which is go up high. And it really is the only choice, because if I'm in stocks, I still got to sell it to get into it. If I'm in money in the bank, I got to worry that I can get the money out of the bank and that the money will have a value. So the biggest thing you must understand is the money doesn't have value anymore because of the printing of the money, because inflation, if you print too much, it loses value, not prices. So as it loses value, what do? You got 250,000 in the bank, which you think you're going to retire with, and the money's losing value, and your 250 is really worth 2. And that's where I show you this to prove it to you. See, back in the 70s, 80s, $20 fills your cart. Then like in the 90s, it kind of half fills your cart. And now today, it barely fills your cart. That shows you the value of the dollar going down. It buys less. So what are you going to do with your money in the bank? Talk about panicking when gold went down $70 and now it's back up. What are you going to do with the dollar going down? How calm are you going to remain when all of a sudden that grocery cart has one item in it for $20? And that's really the problem. And what do you do with it? And that's why you have to know what's going on, because if you don't know what's going on, you don't get out of dollars. You stay in the stock market. Maybe you have some in the bank for safety. I get my 3% interest on money losing 10%. You believe the government that inflation is 2% when it's at least 50%, but we can't even measure it because they're measuring by prices, and it isn't. So all you can do is measure by money printing. Interest rates don't help you with inflation. And so as the money loses more and more value and you put one item in your grocery cart, you start realizing, well, yeah, before I was fine with 250,000. Now I'm going to go through, instead of maybe $20 at the grocery store, I might go through $200 at the grocery store. Now you get a little tense, like things are costing more. So I got to pull more money out of my 250. And now my 250 is really worth about 150. But you don't know it. So you're kind of blind to it. You see the prices at the grocery store go up, but you can't understand that. No, it's the value of the dollar dropping. I can't buy as much. So the 250,000 I think I have really is like 150,000. So the $100 that you thought you had is really worth $1. And that's where you really get it. So your 250,000 is really worth 25,000. oh shit, how do I retire on 25,000? And that's where I'm saying take your 250,000 while you still can and buy gold and silver with it. Because then when it goes down to 25,000, unbeknownst to you, the gold's worth 250,000, if not more, because the gold will not lose because it's not, you can't inflate it. You can't print it. So I have the gold, and you have physical gold because they won't give you the gold if it's not physical. In a safety deposit box, you won't be able to get it as the banks go out because people can't afford the loans because their dollars lost all this money and they got to spend more on food that they don't have enough to pay the mortgage down or the real estate or whatever they bought. And then interest rates go up because the risk you take. If I loan you $10,000 and I just ask for 10,000 back, I get about 6,000 back. So for the 10,000, I want interest. So I get 11,000 back because I'm risking you not paying me back. So I have to apply for that risk. So that's what's happening. So as you retire and you're not in gold and silver, you're totally fucked. As he said, the stocks you might not be able to get. The money in the bank won't be worth anything if you can even get it. Your house will lose value. As the dollar loses value, that's the killer because now your house is gone and now everything in dollars is gone. You have a $20,000 car. No, you don't. You have $500,000 house. No, you don't. And you can't sell it because interest rates are so high, nobody can afford it. So then your $500,000 house becomes a $300,000 house because the interest is jacking it up. But since people can't afford anything, they can't buy your house. They'll call it deflation, which is just a Keynesian term. It's the value going down, and the value is going down because of the inflation. There's no such thing as deflation. You can't deflate the dollar. You just inflate it. You print it. You can't unprint it. You can't burn it. I mean, you could, but you're not going to. Why would you burn money? I mean, that's crazy. So that's where gold comes in. But to get gold, to protect yourself from your 500,000 or 250,000 going to zero, you buy 250,000 in gold, which goes up to 500,000. That's how you win the game. We're playing a game. I remember I did that before the game, and that's what you do. So you're in money, and everybody says your financial advisor says, "Oh no, buy stock. Gold's dead money, all that crap." Yeah, but when the money goes to zero, which it always does, as Egon told us, as it goes to zero, now what do? Now you can't buy the gold. To buy the gold while you can. Gold's it's going to cost you $3,000 an ounce now at $29.90. It's going to be $3,000. Well, you better buy it before A, the money goes to zero and the guy won't take the money, and B, before you got to pay $3,500 for it. So this is where Warren Buffett and Bill Gates don't get it. This is why you own gold and silver. I saw in 1998, Warren Buffett bought a lot of silver. The problem is he sold it because he doesn't get it. It just sits there. Just sits there. What a fucking idiot. This is the problem that everybody, since Warren Buffett's rich, he must know what he's doing. No, he doesn't. And that's where I get after these guys. Just because they're rich, they're just corrupt. That's all. It doesn't mean they understand anything. I mean, I'm not a multimillionaire. Does that mean I don't know anything? I love how in the beginning, one guy sees me and he says, "Well, how much can you know you're living in an apartment?" And I said to him, "Well, I got a master's and I'm smart enough to be in the apartment because the house will lose value. The apartment won't." That's the difference. So basically, that's the game, is to get into gold and silver, because as you retire, you need money because you're not getting a paycheck. So how do you substitute the paycheck with gold and silver? Then if I need to sell an ounce, it's okay. You hopefully have several ounces. I know what you can afford. And that's why I say if you can't afford an ounce of gold because it's $3,000, you buy maybe $500 worth of silver, or you buy a tenth of an ounce of gold or something. You don't have to buy the full ounce. But as it goes up, the value goes up. And that's really the key to it. And we can understand why we need it. because the dollar's going out and you need to retire or you're going to work till you're dead. So what fun is that? So I think the times have changed where we got a pension and you would work and you retire at 60 and you go play golf and that. But it's very hard because now you need, how do you pay your bills? And you're used to psychologically, you're used to getting a paycheck. And that's what's really difficult about it. And then if you think you have money, but you really don't, and that's the other kicker. I think I have a 500,000, but I really don't. It's really not worth anything. And that's the kicker. That's my friend in Florida. I got my retirement 401k. And I go, it's not worth anything. But he can't comprehend that his retirement will be worthless because he's in stocks. But as Alligator just said, well, you're not Euroclear is the one who owns your stocks and there or whatever it is in America, and you're not going to get it. You'll need, I'm going to sell my 500 shares of Apple. Well, it's not yours. You don't have it. And in my lifetime, this will never happen. Well, unless your lifetime's over in 6 months, it's going to happen. We're very, very close. BRICS, what do you think they're buying all the gold for? They understand that the dollar has no value. So the quicker you understand, I want to retire, but all I got is dollars and they're losing value, the quicker you understand that concept, the safer your retirement is, and you can actually retire. So I'm caught in the middle where I'm just waiting for the gold to get to 10,000 an ounce, silver to finally get to 1,000 an ounce, but I'll take 500. That's the real part is silver. Everybody has 500, 1,000 ounces of it. And we're all, we bought it at 20, 25. We're just waiting for it to go. And we see gold going, and it's frustrating because we know silver's worth far more than $30 an ounce. So we got to be patient. And when you are trying to retire and you've got all this silver and you can't really use it because it is $30 an ounce, then what do you do with it? So that's my reality check. So when you do go to retire, if you don't have gold and silver, you're fucked because your money is worthless and your stocks, good luck. And that's really the problem of it is, so you really want to get into the gold and silver while you still can, while the price is still low and they will still take dollars, because there will be a point you'll go to the gold store and he will not take dollars. Right now he kind of has to because it's the only game in town. He's not going to take Bitcoin and there's nothing else you can give him. Now I could get this graded 10 and maybe say, hey, it's worth 100, but I'll take $90,000 worth of gold for the card. He might take it because this is an asset. If it is graded and you can show him on eBay, it sells for 100 grand. He figures, well, I don't have risk. It is Montana's rookie card. It is graded 10, and I can get it's worth 100,000. Okay, I'll do it. Bitcoin you won't take because we don't know what Bitcoin's worth. And as Alligator said, Bitcoin's going out with stuff. So what he's saying is the same people who are boosting up the 7 stocks are going to dump them. And when they dump them, they'll also dump the Bitcoin because they're going to need money. And so the final peg in the hole, or whatever it is, the final thing is the final nail in the coffin. I knew there was something like that. The final nail in the coffin is when the people realize their money's worthless, they'll start panicking and they'll run to gold. But what they'll do is, oh, wait, I got money in Bitcoin, sell. I got money in stocks, sell. I got money in the bank, sell. Get it out so I can buy gold and silver because I don't realize what's going on. But I do have assets. And as my dollars are going and dwindling and the stock market starts crashing because certain people realize that it here, and then certain people realize it here, and certain people realize it here and here. So as it's come tumbling down, you realize it. So you say, oh, I got to sell everything. and buy the gold while I still can. And my point is, you're not going to be able to find it at these prices if you can find it at all. And as your stocks start going down from the panicking of everybody realizing they've been made off, and they start to get into gold and silver at that point, because they'll realize it's the only lifeboat. Gold and silver is the only lifeboat because it can't be inflated and you can't lose value on it, but you must have physical. And when you look at all the BRICS countries with gold and silver, now it makes sense why they're doing it. But there's not a lot left for the West, right? It's all Russia, China, India, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and now Poland and Hungary, and all these are starting to realize, all the Eastern European countries are starting to realize they're all buying gold. It's just, even Germany, Italy, and France, I guarantee you, are buying gold. They understand it. So as everybody starts buying the gold, there's only 200,000 tons, maybe 205,000 tons. There's not a lot out there. Silver, I don't know. It appears there's more, but I don't buy it. They're like 1,400 tons as opposed to 200. So there's 200,000 tons, and silver is, I think, 14,000 tons, or 200,000. I think it's 1.4 million, or 14 million. 14 million doesn't sound right, but 1.4 million, I believe, tons of silver. And I don't believe that. I thought it was 500,000 or 600,000. Anyway, there is, but it's so cheap, you buy more. So it's like a store, right? Well, gold's 3,000, so I'm going to substitute it with silver, and silver's 30. So I'm going to buy, a ton of silver because it's only $30, but I can only buy 10 ounces of gold, right? So that's what's happening, is people will jump on the silver. And then as it's solar paneled and other industrial uses, military, then there's even less of it, right? It's gone. And I know people are buying it right from the mine, but the mine doesn't have much because it's not worth anything. So the mine doesn't produce it. So that's going to be your problem, is the whole, what do you call it? The frenzy to get into gold. And so as people start becoming aware, as the lights start going on, think of a movie, all of a sudden the lights are coming on and the buildings lighting up. People go, shit, I need gold and silver. Well, you don't want to be at the end of that line, but you need to retire and your money isn't worth anything. And that's really the trigger. So as people, and there's a lot of baby boomers are retiring and their money isn't worth anything, they start selling it for gold and silver. As the rest of the world starts realizing they need gold and silver because their money's not worth anything. The euro is the same as the dollar. It's not worth anything, or the British pound, or the Swiss franc, and none of them are worth anything. The yen, the yuan, the ruble, none of them are worth anything because they're all printed to death, because they've all followed the Keynesian, let's fall off the cliff. We're Keynesians. We're too stupid to think on our own and understand what we're doing is wrong. And that's the problem. So as you start realizing it, and you need for retirement, I need something to pay my bills. That's the problem. And just realize that that's what I'm doing. But I'm smart enough, I believe, to wait for the price to go up. So far, gold went from 1,1800, now it's 2,900. So I'm doing okay, but I know there's another, 5,000 should not be out of the realm, and then 10,000. The problem is 10,000 what? Because the dollar doesn't have value, and I don't want to sell to get into dollars. But like he said, a luxury house in Berlin went for 5 ounces of gold, $100. I'm sure it was not $100, but because they printed the dollar to death, it was worthless. So don't say it doesn't become worthless. It's never happened. I don't know what you're talking about. Germany, Rome, England, France, Amsterdam, Spain, Portugal, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Argentina, Brazil, Greece, Sri Lanka, Portugal, and adding to the list soon will be the euro, the British pound, the Swiss franc, on and on and on and on. India has got serious inflation problems. So don't be naive to think it doesn't happen. I don't waste my breath and just tell you stuff. I'm here to teach you. There's nothing, I have no skin in the game. I do not make a commission if you buy gold or if you don't buy gold. The financial advisor has skin in the game if you buy stock. He's going to keep you in stock or buy an annuity or buy a mutual fund. You're working at a company, buy a 401k. I remember the last couple of companies, I didn't take the 401k, even though they were matching it. I don't want it. I want gold. And I basically didn't take it. Did it cost me? Not at all, because I make more money on gold going up to 2,900 than I would have being in a stock that I can't get rid of, that I might have more shares of it, but the dollar's worthless. So I'm losing money where here I made it in gold. So I remember when I left Tenneco about a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about gold a little bit as I was, finished. And I said, well, if you don't have gold, you're screwed. If you're just in paper, forget about it. I know the HR guy, I didn't catch my boss's expression, but he's from Brazil. I don't know. I have no idea. I doubt anybody knows Austrian economics except for us. And that's really what it is. So again, if you want to retire and you want to age and you want to be able to eat when you get older, or even now, you need to be in gold and silver, because the dollar, they keep printing it. You got a $37 trillion debt. They got to print it for the interest. They got to print it for the military with all these wars. They think they're being clever by having wars to get out of a recession, because that will stimulate people buying weapons, except for they don't have any money to buy the weapons with. So like we did with Ukraine, we gave them money to buy the defense contractors' weapons. Like, well, no, they're supposed to buy the weapons, but they're broke. So, it's like selling my Montana card. Oh, but you don't have any money. Oh, well, let me give you $100,000 so you can buy it and you'll just pay me back. That's how stupid it is. No. I want to sell to somebody who has the money. So anyway, I think that's it. So we see gold rebounding nicely, as we know it will. Don't ever doubt it, even though it might drop a little bit. It's derivatives doing it. We anticipate the derivatives, COMEX, finally going bankrupt because they need to cover all these shorts and they can't do it. They can't cover them. There isn't gold to cover, and it's going to cost them a lot more. So we'll see the price go higher and higher. And you can't forecast, it'll be 3,200. No, you can't forecast it. You can, because you've got to understand all the variables, which are people going broke and people discovering their dollars worthless in Germany and France, going, oh shit, we need gold. And then their demand for gold jacks the price up. And then here comes the Italians and the Swiss and the Germans and the Russians and everybody else. The lights going out. Shit, we need to buy gold. That's the part of the frenzy that I'm taking into account that people aren't. Well, in 2008, the chart said this. Big fucking deal. The variables aren't the same. You got to be smart enough to understand there's variables, right? That's what I do. So again, digging in, asking why, and understanding it is really the key to everything. So anyway, that's what's going on. We can talk football tomorrow, maybe. And we will see. Any other questions or comments, please feel free. Prophet, I wish you well, my friend. I hope that everything works out well and that it's all fine. It's a tricky one. A lot depends on your economic outlook. It's certainly tantalizing getting gold, and we'll go from there. Anyway, I think that's about it. So So Alligator, I was shocked. All of a sudden, he now understands inflation's printing the money and not prices, which he's never said that. And then the other couple of things he brought up, bricks and gold and the stock market and everything. So it was good to hear. Like I said, there was 2 or 3 things I fell off my chair because that's what we were wondering. All of a sudden, oh, they won't go on a gold standard or this or that. And I'm like, what the hell is the guy talking about? So I don't know. I don't know if they're listening to me because basically what I say is what they're now saying that they weren't saying before. That's why I say that. What do I talk about in inflation? It's money printing, not prices. He just said that. He hasn't said that. And I've been listening to him for a year or two. He's never said that. And I always roll my eyes. And then he finally said, well, it's not the gold going up. It's the money going. But he did make a comment. I don't think I played it, where he does say, well, it is demand that can raise the price also. So basically, how do you retire? You need gold and silver if you want to retire. In the short term, you're okay with your 500 grand in the bank or in the 401ks. You're okay temporarily. Are you sleeping well? I don't know. Do I sleep well? Very well. And so it's just now where I'm kind of waiting to let the price run and then off I go. So anyway, we will see. I'm looking to teach somewhere besides here. That's my next challenge, is teaching this, because nobody understands it. They're all going to get fucked. I don't like to see that. So, if I can have a class and teach it, I'll be happy. Anyway, that's about what's going on. So good luck. You know what to do. Now do it. And I'm dying to hear Daria. So she's got the little tooth in here. And I'm wondering, well, what kind of operations are going to be? Are they going to slice her that? Are they going to break her jaw? I can't imagine that. I go, why don't you go to a dentist and let the dentist go up and in and pull it out, or just clean it out? And I don't know, would they drill a hole here and then take one of those suction things and suction it out? And then she'd have a little hole that would heal itself. So all these things I don't know. She's petrified of an operation. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell. I'm saying, I'm sure I said to her today, can you explain the operation? Are they not going to just put a little thing and suction it out, or come up through the gum, which is what I would think they would do? Because if it's right here, she said it was an old cavity, somehow got up, which makes no sense. So she must have had a hole up here, and then they did a cavity, but she didn't, how you drain the tooth, and it must have got up, got infected. She says now that's gone, and now so she has a little tooth here, and I'm like, I told her try the dentist, but she wants to go to the doctor. But hopefully that's the plan, is to come up through the mouth and take it out. We will see. But I said to her, they're going to numb you. It's not like, I get you're afraid and you're scared, but just get it done already. So, because you've been scared for a month now with it. Like, she's so afraid I need an operation. I said, well, I'll help you through it. If I was there, I'd be with you, but I can't go until the stupid war ends. Anyway, that's about it. I will check my email and profit, and I'm going to have some lunch, and then I'm going to go probably by 3:00. I will go swim, and then I got to I'm going to ask for unemployment so I can buy more gold. And I got my taxes to do, which I should be fine. Like I said, I'm sure I paid too much in tax, because I'm sure the tax tables are, oh, you're going to make this for a full year, and they take more tax. So instead of taking $40 out of me, they took $100 out of me to pay. And so I should have a nice cushion, and then I just got to pay unemployment, which I need, and that. I don't have to pay Social Security. I didn't make 25 grand. And apparently that's only on W-2 money. So if you ever are wondering, do they count like unemployment, or do they count when I pull my money out of the 401k as income versus the Social Security? No, it's just paychecks. So I should be fine with that. But anyway, I think that's it. So I'm doing my taxes soon. I got till April 15th, but I'll probably do them in the next few days and figure out what to do for my birthday on March 7th. I think it'll be go to MGM and play poker. It's a 7-day. It's always lucky. And I usually like to go on my birthday. So I might do that as a special treat on Friday. And we'll see what happens. Anyway, have a good day. Take care. Be smart. And if you got questions, go to teaserking.com. You get my email like Prophet did. And you can ask me questions or comments. Or just ask me when we first come on, like Luke does, and Bobby and Pat. Pat's in Singapore. So what did Pat have to say today? Pat said something when we first came on. Thanks for your class. Good morning. Pat just had one, I guess. Anyway, I think that's it. So you have to understand the story, which is what I try to teach you. So you realize gold is the only thing that is a lifeboat, and you know you need a lifeboat. So once you understand that, and then you think of your retirement, you've got to buy assets for your retirement. And the only assets you can buy are the gold and silver. Primarily, the Montana and the Brady cards are good, a Rolex. Things like that will always hold their value because they're limited with high. Rolexes are extremely limited. So again, they're limited and with high demand. So anything limited with high demand is what you want to go after. And that ain't Bitcoin. Like you said, it's just being pushed up by Larry Fink and Saylor. And when they get in trouble, because Saylor's losing his ass because he's buying Bitcoin at like 105, it's down to 80 something. So he just lost 20,000 of Bitcoin, and the way he buys it, so he's losing millions of dollars. He will then have to dump it. And then he's got to admit he was wrong, which he'll have a hard time doing. Nobody's ever wrong. Nobody can admit to it. All right. Have a nice day. I will talk to you tomorrow, and enjoy your day. All right. Take care, everybody.